Hi, Mike here with my next orienteering video. A very wet march at Carter Caves State Park in Kentucky for the Orienteering USA National Championships. It took me about 2 days to get here, and the last 24 hours have been soaking wet, so the forest is going to be pretty wet. As part of the preparation, they gave us copies we could look at for old maps, so I stitched them together, and this is what the maps look like. I'm doing the green course today, which is the correct course for my age group. A couple of weeks ago I went to a big event and downgraded my course to brown to be non-competitive but to do a shorter course. After that my knee swelled up and I got a stinking cold and just recovered from that, so we'll see how it goes. Here's the map with the course that I was doing. As usual, I want to remind you that this is not a master class. I will make mistakes. What we're going to do is take a look at each leg and give you a chance to think about what you might do. I'll tell you what my thoughts were on route choices, and then we'll see how it went with some video of the actual route. Usually I talk while I'm going around the course. I didn't do a whole lot of talking, so what I've done this time instead is just done some speeded up video with some voiceover. Hope you like it. Plan to the first control was just basically go straight and try and find that ditch that I've circled, although as I was going along I first of all misread the map and thought it was a little embankment, but I soon found out my mistake and then just kind of went in straight from the end of that. And that's basically how it went. Got to the embankment, went in, and then went into the control. And so we're off. I usually like to try and take it carefully at the start. I was going pretty slow. And I decided that I could look for that embankment, which of course, as I mentioned before, is not an embankment, but it's a ditch. So here we are, just about coming up to the ditch. There it is, and I do realise what it is, but I just use it to guide me into the control. You can even see somebody leaving from it just there. And there it is, nice big depression. One to two, you could go mostly straight, going up along the hill. A little bit tricky to navigate because there aren't many features to guide you in as you get nearer to the control. So instead what I did was to go down to the trail along that for a while until I saw the gully branching off it, and then head up in the direction of the control and maybe use the vegetation boundary on the left as a guide into it. So came down the hill onto the trail, and it was just a matter of deciding when to cut off up the hill, and then the slow slog up the hill, and fortunately I ended up going pretty much straight into the control. So here we go after the second control, and one thing that I learned very quickly was that the greener areas on the map were really not very green at all. As you can see, it was pretty runnable, and the whole forest was very open. I had learnt that from before the start. I actually was talking with the course setter Shin, who said you could see a long way through the forest, and that is certainly the case. So here we are, just going along the long trail, looking out at that sort of gully on the right, just trying to pick my moment to go into it, well, to go across it really. And this is the place. Sorry for all the jerky motion there. I guess I'm looking around, looking to see if I can spot that vegetation boundary on the left, which I sort of did. I was mostly going off, roughly off a bearing and the slope on the ground. just pointed out there where I thought the control was going to be, and in fact it was, because here it is. Two to three was basically go down the hill, look for that little re-engine on the way down, and then spot the control at the other end. 3 to 4, you could either go down around to the left, around the trail, up the valley on the left side, and then make your way into the control. Or what I chose to do was go along the hillside up a little bit to the trail, then along the trail to the edge, and then navigate via these depressions and pits as a way to guide you into the control. Pretty much worked out as expected. Went down the valley, cut across the hill a little bit, saw the control very easily, and then along the hill to the trail, up on the trail, cut across the hillside, and I was able to actually see the depression and some of these pits in this area here, and it was just a matter of navigating into the re-entrance. So leaving control 2, we get down the hill into this valley. Just cut across the bottom of it. There was some water in it, even though it was marked as dry because it had been very wet. Cutting across the side of this hill, don't need to follow the valley because that's not quite on trail. Not on the direct line. Now we can get through this light green stuff. Go across the trail and up the hill, hoping that I could see the controls fairly quickly. A little bit of a stumble there. And there's the control. I actually saw it from a ways off. Now I'm going around the hillside trying to pick up the trail to see where I am on it and use it for a bit, although the wood is so runnable that there really wasn't a need to do that, but I did find the trail in the end. There it is. Went past it first, get back onto it, made sure I knew where I was to help cut across the hillside. Come on Mike, off you go. There you go. Just looking for those depressions and pits to guide me along. There's another control there. I knew it wasn't mine, but it would just help me make sure I was at the right level on the hill. Basically just keep going at this level. There's a little pit. So I knew I was at the right level, just keep going and going and going. And then I'd be able to spot the contour features coming up near the control, which would be able to guide me into it. So here we are, here's the features, and here's the control. With 4 to 5 you could go round to the left. It's a long way round, but you don't do a whole lot of climbing that way until near the end. So you go all the way around to the valley and then turn right, head up the valley and find your way into the control. Or I guess you could go to the right, up the hill to the trail, go to the trail corner and then come down through the re-entrance into the control. What I chose to do was take a more or less straight line and navigate, expecting to be able to find that little valley, little re-entrant before the control as my final guide into the control. So came out of control 4, pretty much on a compass bearing, crossed the valley here, up the hill the other side. Didn't know exactly where I was, but I wasn't too bothered as long as I was generally following the compass. I went over the top of the hill and picked up that little valley fairly easily, which led me straight into the control. So here we go, continuing around the hillside, basically just following a compass bearing. And as usual, the green is not particularly green, quite easy to get through. You can see the first valley there. Just going to cross that. Up the hill on the other side. Slowing down a bit because it gets a bit tiring going uphill. Through some more emotionally green stuff, but you can see as the spring progresses, I'm sure that the green gets much more light green because there'll be a lot more leaves on it, more undergrowth perhaps. Now we're going over the top. We're looking for that little valley which we see there, which we're using as a guide to make our way into the control. And we'll be able to see the various rocks coming up ahead of us. There they are. And here's the control. Five to six, I didn't see a whole lot of options. It was basically go up and over and down the side of this this big hill, then pick up a trail till I find where the valley breaks off to the right here. So I didn't need to know exactly where I was prior to that because I knew I could pick up that feature, and work your way up the valley on the right and eventually cut across to the control. And then 6 to 7 is just basically go straight. So contoured along and then went up the big hill, came across this valley here, kept going up and up and up, hit the trail over the top, then it was the long careful downhill, just making way down. Didn't know exactly where I was, but it didn't matter because I knew I was going to get to the trail at the bottom, which I did there, and then it was a matter of going left until I found this little valley which I could see. I decided to cut off the corner a bit. I think I went a bit too high. Then go up this stream up this little valley, hit that rock there. Well, try not to literally hit it, but use that as a way to navigate up, follow that little spur contour feature and use that as a way to guide in, and I found it without too much difficulty. And 6 or 7 was just go down the hill, cross the valley at the bottom, and then go up and over a spur into the re-entrant. Not too difficult. Alright, off we go. There you might just have seen the shadow of me refolding my map and contouring around the hillside, going off on basically on a compass bearing, crossing over this fairly shallow valley. Enjoying this nice patch of not too hilly open woodland. A bit like the calm before the storm though, because I know I've got a really steep downhill to go, and with my knees going downhill is a bit painful. I need to be careful how I do it. So here we are at the top. Don't know why I bothered checking the map then and just standing still, because I know I just need to go basically down the hill. I guess you have to push a branch aside then. Forest was a little bit thicker here, so it was a little bit slow going. You can see the bottom now. I'd actually thought the trail was on the near side of the stream, so I was a bit confused when I first got there, but I just misread the map. There's the trail on the other side. And I decided to cut the corner here. There were a few more fallen trees than I was expecting, so that made it a little bit slower going than I wanted it to be, but here I am picking up this trail. Got this little stream to cross. I guess I don't keep my head very still when I'm moving. Constantly looking around to see what features I can see to make sure I am going the way I want to go. We're almost out of control, and I'm expecting to be able to see the little re-entrant that it's in without too much difficulty. There it is, and it came with a little refreshment, so I actually stopped and had a quick drink. And then just go down the hill onto number 7. Basically, again, just taking a compass bearing, but it was easy enough to follow the re-entrant down to the valley and then just go up and over the spur to the control. So that was pretty straightforward. There we are. Every route I looked at coming out of 7 was going down this valley to the trails at the bottom of the hill there. And then you could go straight up and over. I think some people did that. I felt with my knees and how tired I was starting to get that I didn't want to climb that big hill again. So I chose to go around the side and then up the valley on the left of the big hill and work my way into the control from there. So I started out coming down through the valleys. A little bit of rough spots at times, but not too bad. Again, I cut this corner a little bit. Don't know if I saved any time or not. Then it was just a matter of going round the trail, all the way around the trail. Gave me a chance to have a break from thinking and also to plan ahead a little bit. Just had to make sure I knew roughly where I was, especially at this point as I was getting towards the end of it. Come around the corner, then start going up this valley. And I needed to be fairly careful about how far along I was. And I started to run into some problems. I felt pretty confident here. And I saw some people, in a moment, I saw some people coming down the hill and I thought, that's where the control is going to be. It's going to be where they've come down from. So I went up, but not quite far enough. And then I thought I hadn't gone far enough, so I carried on going and going and going and going, which was just a real mess. I eventually realized I'd gone way too far and I could see that trail down below me. So I went down to that and then back along the ditch there on the stream, and was trying to be very careful and pick my spot for going up the hill. And then I came across the control. Alright, so here we are just going down the valley. Pick your way through the little trees. Nothing too challenging here because it's just straight down these side valleys into the main valley at the bottom. Where I decided to cut the corner again. Even though I'd come across fallen trees on the way out, I'm not sure why I decided to cut the corner there. I thought it might have been a bit faster. You can see the main valley ahead on the right. I don't exactly leap fallen trees with the greatest of ease these days. Clamber over them, step over them. Here we are getting down to the main trail, and I'm going to speed up the video even more for this long trail run. Beautiful day, as you can see. Nice blue sky, which was really nice after the previous 24-36 hours of pretty torrential rain. While going down here, I will say that staying at Carter Caves State Park campsite was a really nice campsite. There was plenty of spaces between the campsites and level gravel for parking the van or trailer or whatever you've got on it. Beautifully surrounded by woods. Only problem was there was no power in the bathhouse, and then the power went out, the whole electricity went out. There was no water in the bathhouse, sorry, so there was no showers I could take. Had to use the small shower in the van. But it was manageable. Didn't detract from the beauty of the site. So here we are going across the up this side valley now, having turned the corner. Trying to figure out where the control is on the way up. And you'll see in a moment that I start to see somebody coming down the hill, which you can often use as a clue that maybe they're coming from your control. Here they are. Here's this person coming down the hill. Actually, looks like one of my fellow NEOC club members. So I go up the hill, hoping to find the control. And I decide it's not there. Which it was, I just needed to go about 5 meters further on. But instead I decide I haven't gone far enough on the hillside, so I go on. And on. And on. I am getting a little bit anxious at this point. You can see that I'm stopping from time to time, wondering where I am. Have I gone too far? Have I missed it? And I keep going on, assuming I'm at the right height. A bit concerned that the ground is getting a little bit more level to my right than I was expecting. And eventually I do spot, by looking to my left, there's a trail down there, and I know I've gone way too far. So it's time to relocate. Ignore the misery of having probably lost at least 5 minutes on this. Cross the stream on the way back and start to decide how to be really careful about going back in. I'm going to use the reentrant on the right hand side, which is more or less opposite the control, to make sure I really am in the right sort of area. So this is where I decide it is. So I start going up, and that log on the left, I actually recognize that from earlier on. And there's one or two people just walking into the control. I wonder if they are as disappointed as I was. I suppose I was satisfied in the end that I got to it, but it was a big waste of time. So there seemed to me to be several different ways to go, which meant that it was a well thought out route by the course setter, Shin. So first one was go to the right, although to be honest I didn't actually spot that. I saw later on that one of the runners had gone that way. Follow the trail all the way around there to the right. Another one you could do, which some people did, was follow the trail to the left. I had thought about doing that, but decided instead to basically cut in the middle and follow this trail around into the control. And then 9 to 10 was basically just go straight. So I start by going down the hill from 8 and then up the big slog hill the other side. You could see that was going to take a long time. So it was pretty slow going. At the top by the trail junction there was a refreshment point so I could get some water, which is why you'll see when I reach the top I actually turn right there. Stop for a moment, get a quick drink of water, and then carry on around the trail here. Around the corners. I actually missed the trail junction I intended to go off on, but was determined to go that way, so I found that other trail and then eventually got on mine. The GPS isn't quite tracking correctly. I was on the trail all the time here. I know it was a small trail, but I was really on it. Come down the spur here, and down the trail into the valley at the bottom. Up the other side a little bit till where the trail starts bending, then go off into the woods up the hill using the compass bearing, and it wasn't too difficult to spot all these rocks and boulders and the control. Then it was just a matter of taking a compass bearing up the valley a little bit, up the hill, and didn't have too much trouble finding these boulders for the control. So down the hill we go. Just cross that stream at the bottom, and there's a long slog up the hill, so I'm just going to cut out a bunch of this. There we go, up to the road, and I'm turning right instead of left because there's some water there and I needed to get another drink to refresh myself a bit because there was still quite a way to go. You can see lots of competitors with drinking water. Now we go along this forest road, and again I'm going to cut out some of this. Alright, now the trail that I wanted to go on was just off to the right here. There it is. I just missed it. Actually that wasn't it, but I did go past it, so I'm cutting back onto it now because I wanted to make sure I went down it, and here I found it. And then this was, okay, the GPS tracking has gone off a bit, but I was on the trail. And I cut out a bunch of that as well because that was just a long trail run. So now we're cutting off to the left, going down the hill. At least I didn't miss that trail junction. I was a bit concerned about that, but I saw it in the end. And you can see we're going to go down this hill and up the other side. So it was basically a matter of going down the trail, crossing the stream at the bottom. There's a control there. And then just following the trail a little bit up until it starts bending off to the right. There it does, and just carry straight on using a compass bearing. The GPS tracking was a little bit behind at this point. And then go up and over this big spur, assuming that I would come across the rocks. In the very open forest, this was not too difficult. It would have been quite different if there had been a lot of leaves on the trees. There's the rocks. Just keep going along them until I see my control, which is over there. There we are. Now 9 to 10 is just a matter of basically taking a compass bearing and contouring. Well, not sort of contouring, but going down the hill a little bit. So you're controlling that depression that I'm passing. Over the stream up the other side. And straight up to a group of rocks, which I assumed I would be able to see without too much difficulty. And there they are ahead. And there's the control. From 10 there were a few different ways to go. The straight line obviously goes down a lot and then up a lot. So you could take the trail to the right to avoid a lot of extra climbing. You could cut the corner if you wanted to. You could, as I said, you could try going straight if you're feeling strong at the end of a long tough race. I decided to go around to the left, which actually takes you around the campsite, and in fact it took me almost exactly past my van, so I could see that. First time I've run in a race, I've actually run past my my camper van, and then rounded down the hill into the finish, into the, not to the finish, but into control 11. Then from 11 to 12, it was just a matter of going on the path around the hillside and then doing the nasty little climb right at the finish to the finish line. So I came out at 10, went just up the gentle hill up towards the campsite, around the edge of the campsite, basically go past my van. I did not cut across the campsite there, it just looks like it. The GPS tracking was a little bit off. Then down the hill, basically down the spur, I spot that little building there, and fortunately I didn't have any trouble finding the control. Then it was just a matter of going down to the trail, around the trail, up the hill, using whatever energy I had left, which after almost 2 hours of being out there and 1,300 feet of climb was not a lot of energy. Go to control 12 and then go very slowly up the hill to the finish. Coming out at 10, just go around the edge of the marsh here coming up. You can see it there, and essentially head for the campsite to go round the valley instead of down and in it. You can see the campsite ahead there, and with the wonderful visibility in the woods you could easily make out what direction to go in. Did cut the corner a little bit because it was a very shallow gradient at that point. Didn't want to go down too much though. And here I am at this point. There's my camper van. First time I've ever run past it. Well, there's video evidence. I did cut through the campsite rather than go around it, but as you can see, all the sites that I went through are completely empty. It is very bad form to walk or move through an occupied campsite. A little bit of road running. Pick up the spur with a trail that goes down it. There's some buildings ahead, and at this point my battery ran out because I've been out for so long, but I was able to carry on. Pity there's no film of me climbing the really steep hill to the finish. I really enjoyed the event, even though it was very challenging and much longer than of course I would have liked to have done. As you can see, I didn't do very well in the results, but I wasn't expecting to, since I ended up having to walk an awful lot of it given my state of my knees. But congratulations to Orienteering Cincinnati, in particular to Shim, the course setter, and thanks again for putting on the event.